Welcome to Political Trade Secrets, an inside look at campaigns and politics, where we pull back the curtain, look under the hood, and investigate all aspects of politics and how elections are won. Now, here's your host, Dustin Olson.
And welcome to Political Trade Secrets. Welcome to everybody who's joining us from across the internet right now. We are live streaming on 12 different platforms, and whether you're on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, you name it, wherever you're at, it doesn't really matter. We love having you here, and thank you for joining us for this important conversation. We're going to be asking the question, how can you as a political leader use social media, and what is really the purpose of social media for you as a political leader? That's really what we're interested in. You know, this is something that we're all dealing with. We're there with you right now. And, you know, with what we've seen in the news in the last day with all these, social media tribunals are deciding whether or not people have First Amendment rights. Is this the place to have as the only place where you actually make your case for your candidacy, for the issue that matters to you and whatnot? So we're going to be talking about that here in a moment. So wherever you're at, please do join the conversation. You can post a comment or question there in the comment section, and through the magic of the internet, they come back to us right here, and we are able to include you in the conversation. Additionally, we're here really to empower and inspire citizens from across this country to be the most effective citizens that they can be, and also to unleash their political power, to really be the most powerful political leader for their community, their state, and for our country. And one of the ways that you can do that to amplify this message is to like the program, to love the program, to wow the program. And then additionally, what really makes a difference is if you subscribe and follow the program, and if you do join the Share Force. So join ShareForce, make a difference, reignite American patriotism, because that's why we're here. And it's as simple as right there. There's a share button, there's a retweet button, and make sure that you get this in front of folks, because who knows who you might inspire to be that political leader for their community and make the difference on some issue that we all care about for this country, and they can help us reignite American patriotism and ensure that this great American experiment continues for the next generation. Now, one of the other ways that you can really make a difference is by joining us here in Political Trade Secrets. You can go to politicaltradesecrets.com right now and sign up to be a Political Trade Secrets insider. And it's really that simple. You can go and check that out right there. politicaltradesecrets.com. Sign up to be a Political Trade Secrets insider and get exclusive stuff. We'll be sending out the weekly insider email in the next couple of days, and we'll be able to make sure that you are a part of the program that way. Then additionally, one of the things you can do also is you can actually text me. We're going to have resources from today's show, and you can text me at 202-918-3345, and we send out texts after the show, and we will bring you in. So we're going to be talking about social media, how you as a political leader, what is the purpose of social media for you, and answer that question. What are some of the pitfalls? We're going to go through all that stuff. But first, one of our favorite points in the program, I think for everybody here, of course, is when we introduce the High Priest of Ohio politics, the Buckeyes best, America's sweetheart, your co-host and mine, Sean Bulldog Bartley. Sean, how you doing today?
Doing well. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone out there. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to a great conversation today about social media, its importance and its purpose, and really how to navigate it for your success out there. So looking forward to that. And I know we're going to be talking a little bit about the news of the day and just some other goings on. So looking forward to that. But you can join in the conversation wherever you are. Just go ahead. If you're watching us live, you message us, put a comment in right now. We'll bring it up. If you are watching after the fact, we still want to hear from you. And we routinely go back, comment, we like, love, wow.
Yep.
the comments as well. So love to hear from you. We do that, and it also informs future episodes. So do make sure you're doing that.
Well, this episode came from a suggestion from a viewer,
Yeah.
and we really do appreciate the suggestion because people are thinking about running for office and they're worried about what do I need to do to navigate social media. They feel like they have to be there. And, we're here on social media, but, you really have to ask that question, what's the purpose of this for myself? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that I'm actually getting out of it? Because this is one big echo chamber who we don't get to control who determines the echo chamber. So who is it that is determining that? And it's, Zuckerberg and other people like that who are deciding who you're talking to. So we're going to answer that question, how you can make sure that it doesn't derail your campaign, because it could easily derail your campaign. Very easily. So, so if somebody is looking to get involved, what are some other ways that they can get involved and make a difference in politics?
One thing we say, right, is that we have never had anybody win a race that wasn't on the ballot.
Yep.
And so this is where you engage the professionals at Grassfire, who are the professionals in getting you onto the ballot. So that is petitioning. It's one of the many things that they do. It's the one-on-one, human-to-human interaction. Petitioning, canvassing, live calling. It is really think about this. It's wherever communication's taking place one-on-one. Where does that happen? In front of the grocery store, over the phone, on your doorstep. It is the connections that are made right there. No one does it better than Grassfire. So it's www.grassfire.us. Reach out to them. Schedule your complimentary consultation. I know that they said that they've had some conversations with folks that are looking to either get themselves on the ballot or issues onto the ballot the last few days, and even make sure that they're reaching people in a way that is impactful enough. So looking at canvassing and live calling as well. So they've been quite busy, thanks to viewers and people reaching out to them. So we really do appreciate that.
Yeah. And hey, Kathy, thank you for the comment. And thank you to everybody who's posting comments and questions wherever you're at. We do appreciate it. And we appreciate having you here with us. So thank you for joining us this morning. And let's jump into this and let's get into the conversation. If you'd like to set it up, we're going to really ask the question of what's the purpose of social media for you as a political leader, and for you as a candidate, for you and your campaign. What is the purpose?
I think the place to start is with the tribunals you mentioned at the top of the show. And 10 years ago, right, it was the death panels that were coming along with Obamacare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's your post panels. And that's that will judge if your posts are worthy of even being on the platform, which is the new public square. We've talked about it many times that it's really the place where people have at least until about a year ago seemed to have free speech.
Mm-hmm.
Though they've been chipping away at it, but they just took the veneers off, and it was on display more so yesterday than probably ever before.
Yeah. So you think about what's been going on in social media for years now, and yesterday was a pretty big day. So while we were on the program, the news came out that the tribunal had come together, this supranational government within Facebook. Facebook's trying to become the united world government for us all, and they have a tribunal, a Supreme Court of sorts, but more of a tribunal. That sounds a little more militaristic and a little bit more of a one world government. This is all a little bit in jest, but they have. This is the absurdity of the whole thing. It's the former prime minister, I think, of Denmark, or president of Denmark, and is the head of this tribunal that decides whether or not Donald Trump can be on social media, can be on Facebook. And to think of a Dane, I have to say, to quote Shakespeare, there's something rotten in Denmark, and I think it's the head of this tribunal. And one that doesn't give much confidence to me as an American patriot who cares about free speech and everything that goes along with that, to have a Dane in charge of whether or not our former president can have his right to free speech. Even if it was Barack Obama and they kicked him off and everything, that's just absurd. I would
Yeah.
defend it to the death, his ability to have his voice heard. And to have a European Union type who, their laws are not quite as strong on free speech as ours, to have that person deciding whether or not a former American president, I don't think Zuckerberg and the rest of the people at Facebook get how absurd. And Kathy says, seriously, and for sure, that's exactly that is. It's really ridiculous. I don't know if you watched Veep before with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah.
It's I highly recommend people watch it. But the one of the ongoing characters in the show is the former prime minister of Finland, and she always is trying to stick her nose in American business and international stuff, and she's kind of a thorn in the side of the main character. It's all very absurd, and she has absurd concerns and everything else. And that's just what I think of when I think of the president of Denmark, former president, being the one who's announcing the decision as to whether our president, former president, can be able to have his right to free speech. They really have created this pseudo government that's larger than the United States within Facebook. It is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I truly find it remarkable, and but they went on to say that Facebook standards were vague and they didn't tell you anything either, which for anybody who's actually read them, that is also accurate.
Well, we know this because when they have disabled our ability to advertise, they say you have violated something, and they don't tell you what the thing is, and so you have to decide, well, do I stop doing everything because I have no idea what it is? Now, in our case, when we finally were able to get a real person to respond, the response was, oopsies, we made a mistake. We're not quite sure what it was.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is when it's a moving target, it basically means they get to decide anytime, any way they can kick you off the platform. And I'm going to guess there's been some of our audience who've been in Facebook jail before. They usually probably know because of the post what it is, but it has a chilling effect.
Yeah,
When
absolutely.
they have all these things happening. One other point I want to make about the Facebook, I'm sure there's great people who work there, but they seem to make these stupid decisions. Putting the former leader of Denmark is the head of your tribunal that decides whether or not Americans or anybody in the world has their freedom of speech is absurd to us as Americans. To have that person decide whether a former president of the United States can have freedom of speech in the country that protects and has promoted the ability for Facebook to exist.
Yeah.
They're based here. They may think of themselves as international, but they are based here. They came out of our system that allows for innovation and allows for all this stuff. He was educated at Harvard. He stole the idea at Harvard. So, I mean, he really, has benefited from being in America. And they make these stupid decisions as to who they put in charge of these things. They have Nick Clegg, I think it is, former communications director for the liberals in Great Britain.
Well, he was the Liberal Democrat leader.
Yeah.
And vice or deputy prime minister in England.
Yeah, that is not who you look to for freedom of speech. One, Great Britain, they're not quite as strong on freedom of speech. Yep. And then two, to have the person who is a left-wing ideologue, and left-wing even for left-wing Americans, he would be considered absolute left-wing. To have that person, and we know so many people from our competitors, Democrat operatives, they all seem to be in this revolving door to be working in the communications departments of any of these social media companies, and then they're now in the revolving door between that and the West Wing at the White House, and many of these people are these top folks. So that goes to say, these are echo chambers that you do not control, and it brings up the question of, what is the purpose of social media? What can you do with it? So for me, and thinking about like for our program and other things that we're involved in, we're not going to, because of all this stuff, we're not going to disengage. We're going to be engaged. We're on Facebook Live right now. We're on YouTube. We're on all the different platforms, and we're on Twitter. We're going to get out there and engage. But for us, And what I think, if you really want to be an influencer, if you want to be a political leader, what it is you want to connect with people. So thank you to everybody who's made a comment, a question, people who've liked it, who've shared the program. We've had, I think we're close to 100 shares right now. That's what we're looking for, is those engagements and those people that we're bringing into our community, that we're actually able to know your name and be able to connect with you and actually work together with you. That's what we're out to do. It's all about connecting with people who you can actually work with going forward. Because if you think you're actually changing the conversation, right now, all these companies are, through their algorithm, are determining whether or not we have ability to be in front of people.
Mm-hmm. It's, that is the thing about this, and that they didn't address yesterday was really the where Facebook and the algorithms really are lead people away from, and really being able to get their message out. So that's another thing that's out of your control, and it's something we're going to talk about later, is really all the things that are outside of your control. So you say, what makes this worth it?
Mm-hmm.
Or why engage on this platform or these platforms if, certainly it seems like the deck's stacked against you.
Yeah.
And
We got the most clear communication we've ever gotten from Facebook yesterday. Specifically, we weren't able to make sure we boost just a little bit the shows to our audience, because Facebook requires you to pay to make sure everybody who's liked your page can actually see your posts. It's absurd. You don't have to put much money, but you have to put something. And they notified us specifically. We had, as part of the graphic, it was, and this is a big story, and I think you all are with me. And we didn't say the words because obvious reasons, but there's an alphabet soup of agencies in Washington, D.C., and we just simply had the question, CIA or WTF? And because of the whole intersectional video that they put out, all the absurdity that we talked about yesterday, and had everybody scratching their heads as to, is this the CIA of today, that you're letting everybody know about their people have anxiety disorders and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy town. It's a WTF kind of a thing. Yeah. Well, we were informed by Facebook that they were going to reduce our traffic because of just having WTF in there. Okay, if you don't like that, that's fine. Clearly, we didn't say the actual words, but WTF, really.
Yeah, we wouldn't utter whiskey tango foxtrot.
Exactly. We just aren't going to do that in public. But that's the thing, is like, what is it we're actually saying? And they are assuming, and they're making they think they can read our minds. But that's the kind of stuff that they can, any arbitrary type of reason they can shut down. So if you're not going to be able to get to a lot of people, let's say you are, who's a good example of someone who has a really large audience on social media? I would say Donald Trump, but he's not on there anymore. But we'll just use him as an example. When he's on there and he has millions upon millions of people, when that was a thing,
yep,
he was able to move the narrative. He was able to be interesting and move the narrative. Well, most likely that's not your situation. Yeah. If you have 10,000, 20,000, you're talking to an echo chamber, and one that you don't get to choose. So what is the purpose? Well, we first said, to connect with people. If you can get to the point where you can actually move the narrative and you can actually change what people are thinking, that's awesome. But that's not going to be what happens at first. Yeah. So what do you need to be careful of? Do you think it's really important that everybody has what you have to say? So, Sean, what do you think are some of the pitfalls? If people think that they're out there making a difference in the conversation and the greater public, they think people beyond their friends and family and hardcore people who agree with them, they think that they're going beyond that. What are some of the things you could accidentally fall into that would maybe blow up your campaign?
Well, I think one of the things that is just wasting too much time on social media.
Yep.
And you get ended up down rabbit holes and all that. So, you probably want to spend like 1 hour a day between 11 and noon, give or take.
Yeah.
And that's
the only time. You need to take a little extra 5 minutes afterwards to make sure if you didn't share it everywhere, you need to make sure to share whatever you were watching a couple of places. That's about the only thing that you need to do.
Yeah. No, but you want to make sure, because this is something that can happen. It can
No, to
become,
be clear, what we're saying there is that's actually you're getting value out of it for
yeah,
yourself.
yes,
That's different. If you're going to places and you're getting value, if you watch other things, you're getting value for yourself. That's one thing. But as far as like making a difference for your political leadership,
yeah.
here you can actually learn some stuff. But if you're trying to get out there and like communicate, like things and do what have you, what do you think people can do that can blow themselves up?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's two things. One is sharing questionable content or liking it. You want to take a beat before you
Mhm.
go and you share that thing, or you like something or love it or whatever, and just go, what? How could this come back later? Because we had Najee Falali on a while back to talk about um,
Opposition
opposition
research.
research, and when you think about that, one of the places they go is to social media, and really, because it can tell a narrative about you, and so you want to just be clear, and maybe it's something that people around you really like, um, and then, but what the broader public might go back and look and say, that is not where we are.
Yeah, when you want to think about is, well, first of all, what Najee specifically said, for most opposition researchers, they used they use scraping technologies where they use a program that goes and scrapes all of your likes, dislikes, all your loves, all your laughs, all the different things that you might have done, all the things you've shared. They can pull everything that you've done online, and it goes out kind of like a web crawler, I guess. It just goes out and it grabs all that stuff and it brings it back, and they're able to see everything you've done. And what happens when that happens, and this is, when we think about this for ourselves, whenever you are the operative, or you're the opposition researcher, you're the strategist, you take something from one domain where it was just, you're going through your feed and you clicked on something, that's one context, and then you take it into the larger, maybe press and paid media and just rumor mill context, it changes the meaning of it. So we get that happens, but you're changing it from something you're just clicking on the feed. That's what you were doing. That's what you think you were doing. But realize that if you are thinking about running for office, you have to think about that in front of like a whole audience. What would they think about what you did on that one tweet, on that one Facebook like or whatever? What do they
Yeah,
think that means?
yeah, well, exactly. And so you just want to take a beat, say, hey, how could this be construed, and is that the light I want to be put in,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it is, and that, just say, okay, that, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you just want to make sure, because most of the time you go, I don't even know what they're talking about.
That's what it's going to
Yeah,
be. You don't
yeah,
have any clue, and they're going to ask you some question, and you're going to be like, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
exactly.
And it's not going to be a great defense if you say retweets don't equal endorsements. That's something that everybody does.
Yep.
That's okay to put that on your. People do that because they know they're going through so many different messages that
Yep.
they don't know that they just realize they're going to make a mistake. That's why people do that.
Yep.
You should do that too, but
Yeah. And then I would say also posting in the heat of the moment. So kind of a similar vein here, but this is probably where you get into more trouble. Is
mhm.
you're mad about something and you say, screw whoever and all this other whatever you might be saying, right? And
And it's written, and you haven't thought about, have you written clearly such that someone, not the person you're talking to, gets it, because they're
yeah,
not going to get it, because nobody's going to solve anything on social media. But can the person who's going to see it in the newspaper, will they understand what the hell you were talking about?
exactly. Yep. So you just want to, again, this is another place where, take a beat. If you think it's something controversial, you might actually ask somebody else, like,
Hmm.
should I do this? Um, and try to have a little wisdom about it, because it is, um, these are the things that get you in trouble.
Hmm.
And we've seen it. a little less so now, but there was definitely a time where it was, student athletes in particular. I think we saw, uh, some. This usually comes up around draft time, like, oh, they have social media posts that are derogatory or in some way or are viewed that way. And we've seen people there, when they're, job interviews and other things that it's something that could be a prevention for them. So you just want to,
Yeah.
not just in politics, but everywhere, you just want to, this this might be something that really lands the wrong way.
Yeah, it's go back to the question. Just keep asking the question. What's the purpose of social media
Yeah,
for me? What's the purpose for me? If it's the purpose of social media for you is to spout off and give every thought that you have and have it documented for perpetuity. If that's the purpose of social media for you, then go for it.
yeah,
Put it all out there. Just write it and post it. But Kathy has a good point here. Write it, but don't send it. That could be a good thing. If you're going to do that, though, I recommend longhand or to in cursive writing on a notepad, because it's going to be a lot harder for you to accidentally hit that send button or hit that post button if you're going to write it out that way. Donald Trump is well known for having actually handwritten a lot of his tweets and handed it to somebody to post, which is why he was very clearly, you're not Donald Trump. You're not the one who's going to be able to decide what the news is going to talk about for the next 12 hours based off of the tweet that you send.
yeah. And if you're typing it, I suggest doing it in a Word document first.
Yes.
That way, you don't accidentally hit send.
Or on someone else's computer.
Yeah,
There you go. Give as much daylight between wherever you're writing it and wherever it could get posted. That's a great
exactly.
idea. So there's also there's one thing that I think people get. If you are already in the political sphere and you're already an opinion leader, you're an influencer that's making a difference as far as directing the conversation. So that's not most of us. It's only occasionally you and I,
No,
but for the most part, you have to be an elected official who's in a high level situation, and you just happen to be whatever your area of expertise is, happens to be what's important in the narrative and the conversation in the country at that time. Let's say you're on the Judiciary Committee in the U.S. Senate and there's a Supreme Court nominee up. That's when your tweets and everything else you're doing is actually going to start moving the conversation a
that's
little
right.
bit. So if that's the case, then timeliness and doing something quickly is probably will outweigh having it be perfect. If you're really trying to, you kind of set the table, make it clear as to what actually is needs to be communicated in that situation. So those are just some of my thoughts as to the speed as to
Yep.
how you do it. Most of the stuff you're going to do is not going to matter a hill of beans. So that's why I say the purpose of social media for most people starting off is to be able to connect with people and actually have them be a part of their lives
Yep.
and be able to be a part of their campaign, be able to be a friend, like some of the folks who are posting comments right now. These are people that we have a real connection with, and we're connecting with real people, and that's the purpose for us.
Yeah. So we're talking about connecting with people, and social media, we believe, is a great way to do that. If that's as a political leader and as somebody who's trying to move forward, the political narrative and climate in your neck of the woods.
But
There
if you need to get past the tribunals,
Exactly. Then there is a great way to do it. It's 10centtexting.com. This is your way to get connected with voters or constituents right where they are on their mobile device. Look, 82% of people open every text message they get. Of those, 90% of them open that text within 3 minutes. So that is a way to actually communicate something timely. It is a way to actually get feedback quickly and be connected with folks. And 10 texting actually has a great way to actually communicate with people, have actually ask questions and get communication with them. And you can put an image, GIF, short video right there in the body of the text message. It's really quite remarkable. So I'd encourage you to check out 10centtexting.com today and get connected with people right where they are.
it's really cool to watch people connect on a technology. I did not expect this. I've said this many times. I did not expect texting to actually be the thing that more meaningful conversations were happening when it came to politics. But it's where people are, and you have to get. Sometimes you just have to. We did an episode back in the fall. We might do an updated version of it. Hunt where the ducks are, and that's actually a pertinent. Actually, I'm glad I just mentioned that because we might want to talk about that for a second here. That's part of the. What's the purpose of social media? It's to connect with people, and if you want to hunt where the ducks are, it might determine where you spend your time politically. But it's really made a difference for a lot of people, and it's great watching people use those on their campaigns and connect with folks. I think we've already had a few campaigns where they were really close just this month, that people probably made it across the finish line because of their texting campaign. Now, we got a question here. For those of us candidates that have run before, that are preparing to run again in the future, what should we do with our campaign pages? It's a great question. Should we maintain them and keep our supporters engaged, or should we close them and reopen when we have campaign staff to help manage them? Well, there's a lot in that question, and I'm really glad you asked it because that's really good stuff. I'm going to take a quick run at it. I would not close it down. You can always change the name. So if we're talking about Facebook specifically, and I also think you can do this on Twitter, you can change the actual name. You can even sometimes change the handle. So I would recommend keeping the same Facebook page. And if you're going to be running for another office, maybe you ran for state house and now you're going to run for state senate, or whatever it is, or maybe even for city council, you can change that. You want to keep the same folks. Now, what happens, especially with Facebook pages, is you're going to have to continually engage people and actually have stuff go out there, and otherwise it will atrophy, and the algorithms are not going to deliver your stuff to them. And so you don't necessarily. You need to make sure if you're going to be engaging people that there's an actual purpose. So make sure that it's authentic communication from you. You don't have to spend all of your time on it. People who spend all their time on it, they're wasting their time, as Sean said. But yeah, you want to be able to send stuff out every few days on that page. That's my initial thought about it, to keep it fresh and keep it alive.
Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of things there in the off time, or where you're not sure if you're going to run again, or you're thinking about a different office or whatever. I think posting things that are timely as they come up, things that you just want to be in communication about. So it could be stuff going on in your community, it could be stuff going on in your state, it could be national stuff that you just think, hey, people ought to know about.
Mm-hmm.
You get to share a little opinion about, and it's just a way to make sure that that you can post and keep up with that in a way that makes sense. And then what I would say, and have a little frequency to it, so that it does stay there, and that people, when they go and they look, it's not like, oh, this is something that hasn't happened since 2018.
Yeah.
So
you can set up reminders on your phone. It's as simple as saying, hey, name of the phone, the computer assistant on the phone, set up a reminder for every Tuesday and Thursday, post something on social media, and that's it. And then it reminds you, and you go, okay, you see it every once in a while, and it's there it is. And I would be very mechanical about it, especially in the off time. And I would not spend too much time on it. And I wouldn't even worry about it. I mean, ask questions, be engaging that way. And maybe if you have money and resources to actually have a team do it. But if you're a solo situation and you're not really good at it, do not spend too much time on it, and do not put things out there that could possibly be a problem for you when you run again. It's not your place to put all of your thoughts about the world, because, as we said, nobody's going to most likely really see it. And unless you're spending money on Facebook specifically to have it even sent out to all of your people, it's likely not going to get even seen by most of your people. Now, what you want to be doing in your campaign, and in what you want to be doing in whenever you're on social media, is you're trying to connect with people. And I think really, as Republicans and conservatives, this is more important than ever, is you want to tell people something like, sign up to be a Political Trade Secrets insider and get exclusive stuff by going to politicaltradesecrets.com. This way we can make sure that we are able to be in communication if Facebook decided tomorrow that they're not going to allow any more Republicans on their platform.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend, is having a call to action in all of your communications on social media that give people a way to connect with you at a deeper level, be able to provide content that's of value to them. That's what I would also say, is if you're going to do stuff, put something out there in the world that actually is going to create value, that's actually going to be helpful to people. And that's what I recommend, and provide that. When people are going to go and sign up, provide that. So in your campaign, that's what I recommend, is get people to the next stage of whatever the next action is. And another way that people can do that is join our community. You can join our text community by going to, by texting me at 202-918-3345. Again, that's 202-918-3345. And you get resources after the show. We will send out links from things that we talked about. And that's what I would recommend, is that you're looking at it as though you're going out there. We talked about hunting where the ducks are. You're going out there, you're bringing people in. Because if you leave it on the social media platforms, none of these social media platforms give you the list. Like, you can't, if you get to a certain number of followers, rarely can you even look at everybody who's a follower on your page.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's right. So I want to just make one point about basically the maintenance of a page between campaigns or whatever. I'd say the advice for like 95% of people is just hit it down the fairway, using a golf term. Don't try to get fancy. Don't try to go over the trees or whatever else you might try to do in golf. You just want to hit it down the middle and keep it going, but don't do a lot. And then,
as James Brown would say, hit it and quit
it. That's right. That's
move on.
But in the campaign, I think, and having calls to action even then would be a great idea. If there are certain things to do or needs you see, but yes, having something for people to do, and Dustin gave some great ways that we have on this show. You join us as a Political Trade Secrets Insider. You join our texting platform. You join the Share Force. Those are things that we do, and you probably notice some repetition with it because that's something important there. Now, when it comes to the question also asked about having someone else do it. We say, if possible, you really want to deputize someone that you trust to be in charge of social media, and it will, and really have you personally removed from it as a candidate as much as possible. And I know
that's for 80% of the people, 90% of the people.
Yeah.
And even the person who thinks they're in the 10%, you're probably not in the 10%.
Yeah.
There's may even be smaller than that. There's certain politicians, political leaders, who are particularly skilled at being able to handle their own social media. And they're walking a tightrope. They could possibly blow themselves up at any moment.
Yep. And these are folks that are certainly trying to get more attention and do some other things. But the main thing that gets people in trouble are those trolls out there that are just trying to goad you into saying something, respond to something, make you mad about something. I know we've had it with clients before that they replied back, we didn't even know it was happening until said, whoa, what? And then
it's oftentimes, once you're in the heat of the campaign, it's probably a good idea for the candidate to delete their social media apps.
Yep.
So delete Facebook, delete Twitter, delete Instagram. I get that you want to be connected with people and you want to look at all that stuff, but it's best not to do it. Do it when you're on the computer. You don't have to look at it on your phone. And it's just going to be much better for you to not be on there.
Yeah.
In most cases, that's not going to be where you want to spend your time regardless, and then you're more likely to get inflamed. And there are people who are trolls. So this is another thing that I want to communicate. There are paid trolls out there, and if you become important enough, they will come around and they'll troll you, and they'll try to get you into conversations. They might even try to get you on the record on things that you probably don't want to be on the record on, or you haven't thought through. There are going to be people who might be doing that to you. And by the way, if people aren't aware of this, so I get this a lot. I don't know if you get this, Sean, but when you're kind of out there and you are known to be someone who speaks on topics, there are people who will try to connect with you. And there are a lot of fake accounts that reach out to me that are very clearly Chinese bots or Chinese trolls or Russian trolls, and they're trying to connect and and sometimes, and you also see there's going to be people who steal your friends' profiles. These are all things that are happening. These are not friendly forces out there. And there are going to be people who are trying to troll you. So there's a real robust, and this is something we probably should talk a little bit more in the future about, especially for higher level campaigns. There is actual efforts of these foreign governments to try to troll American political leaders. We've just asked Eric Swalwell when he was on city council. He got Fang Fang and caused himself some. Well, actually, it's not really caused him any problems. It's caused America problems since he's on the Intel committee. So you should really be on the lookout for that kind of thing, and just be aware that there's people who aren't necessarily your friends. They don't have your best interest at heart. And the left-wing folks also have troll farms.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big left-wing progressive organizations that pay people a lot of money. Michael Bloomberg made a big deal out of paying social media influencers, that means troll, to push his messages and to go out there and say stuff. They did a terrible job. He spent a lot of money to do a terrible job, but there's people who do that. That's what they spend their time on.
Yeah, well, and I think the point here is that they're not always going to do a terrible job.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be on the lookout for that. And I think that's certainly one of the uncertainties that lies ahead in social media. Last thing I'll say, because really that question that we got from the audience was really great in setting up keys to success. One other key to success is proofread. I don't know how many times you see some posts, and we're guilty of it too. We no one's perfect, but you really want to make sure that you're proofreading. Twitter in particular, there isn't like the edit button to go quickly change something.
Cove Fifi.
Yeah.
That's so Trump occasionally would put misspellings in his tweets because there is we've talked about it a little bit before the book, Impossible to Ignore. One of the ways you actually have people, you get their focus is if you have a grammatical error or a spelling error in a document, people will focus on it longer and they will be more likely to remember it. And it does appear that Trump would do that sometimes, especially if he's handwriting it and handing it to somebody. There was a little bit more time to do that. That wasn't always the case, of course. And I'm sure there was a lot of actual mistakes. And I think we all appreciated that it actually came across as real. So if you do have a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But there are easy ways to do it. And Grammarly is a great add-on for your browsers that will tell you if there's an issue with anything that you're writing. It does it for social media, for Google Docs, for everything. It automatically tells you if you have a possible grammar issue or a misspelling. And it's not always correct, but it at least notifies you before you hit send.
Yep. It's a good way. It takes care of 95% of the things that'll arise there. So just something to be mindful of.
It won't catch the knot that was necessary.
That's right.
And you also want to think about when you're actually writing stuff is you want to think about how the other person's going to hear it, not just on social media, but in the future in front of the press and everywhere else. You always want to be thinking about, is this clearly stated? Is this going to actually honor my position and my beliefs? Is this actually going to do the job that other people get my communication? That's a big communications advice regardless, is that you're responsible for your communication being gotten by the other person. You can't force them to get it, but you have to think about, have I said this in a way that they're actually going to get all the context, all that's necessary for them to understand what I'm communicating. And that's going to be important in the proofreading. It's usually requires a couple of additions for something to actually land in a way and make it interesting. That's the next thing, is that next go around, you put your idea down, but then you actually think about, how can I say this more interestingly? If you really want to get people's attention, you pick the words that are that are more interesting, that might be a little bit more vivid. Any thoughts on that, Sean? As far as
Yeah.
when you're actually
Well,
trying
it
to
can
do
also
communication, that
be,
makes a difference.
yeah, it can also be edgy.
Mhm.
But
You
you
just have to
want
make a choice if that makes
that's
sense for
right.
you.
That's right. And but but really, because if it's not interesting to someone, you don't get their attention. It doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It really doesn't matter.
Yep.
So
Attention, intention, and retention. And it's all about attention. And by the way, on that topic, maybe we can talk about this a little bit more tomorrow. And we talked about this 2 weeks ago, I think it was, when Caitlyn Jenner was being rumored as running for office and announced um, that she was going to be running. And we, made the point at the time that this is somebody who, from the Bruce Jenner days to now, the keeping up with the Kardashians and everything, that they know how to capture attention. Kanye West is part of this group. Kim Kardashian. I mean, these folks know how to capture your attention. They've been on camera a lot. They have had lots of communications training. I mean, most sports people have done so much media over the years, and it all culminated into the Hannity special. I don't know if you watched it last night, but there is a lot that can actually be learned by candidates across the spectrum to how to handle such a thing. And having a whole 1 hour special with Hannity, that's and I don't think that Caitlyn was in any way even pulling back on the conservatism. It's you can't help but watch.
yeah,
So if you want to learn about getting attention, I think that's you don't have to live the life that they all have lived, but you can't help but watch, and that makes a difference.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that is a great point. And I think in our business, a lot of people laughed when Donald Trump first showed up on the scene.
Mhm.
Um, and I personally was like, well, I'm not quite sure about this, but I know that actually my dad was like, I'm voting for him. Like
Yeah,
first first day, he's like, yep. And I'm like,
that's the
huh?
guy.
I'm like, wow. He never really talked to me about politics, but that was he was like, yep, I'm on board. So, it really, and I know it's something you noticed right away is that,
Well, I told people immediately that June in 2015, I said, if he starts to file all the ethics papers and all the for the financial disclosures, if he does that, that's a big deal for a billionaire. If he goes to that extent and kind of shows a little bit of what they have. I mean, there's a lot you have to give up to do that. And once he did that, I was like, he's in this race until he decides he's not in the race.
yeah,
That's it's going to be up to him, and he probably is not going to decide he's not in the race. So that probably means he's going all the way, and that's kind of the view that I had of it. I didn't quite agree with his trade policies, but now I got that his trade policies were the actual free trade policies. But this is the thing: there's so many of these, um, I don't know, unimaginative political strategists out there. And I don't even know if they're really strategists; they're just people who've been around. They happen to work on campaigns, but they just didn't get the interesting nature of that, and how you're not going to be able to look away, and that goes for a lot. And it's
oh,
actually not something to be derisive of. It's actually something to be honoring of, whether you are going to vote for Caitlyn Jenner if you live in California or not. At the end of the day, there's somebody who is able to deliver a message that actually was clear, actually deliver common sense, and that was a big theme throughout the interview. But I actually tackled tough issues
yeah,
and really do a takedown of the governor and talk about the hypocrisy and do it in a way that actually resonated and mattered to people. Talk about taxes, talk about things, and actually say good things about Donald Trump, which I wasn't expecting, but that's what happened. It was really quite fascinating, and you couldn't look away, and so you actually got the communication. So that's a really important thing, and we've been we'll keep beating that dead horse.
yeah.
And as a friend of ours said, is if the horse is dead, get off. So we may be not taking our own advice at this point. That may not be that interesting anymore. But that is, what else would you like to say about social media as we
Oh,
wrap up this question?
yeah, just a couple of quick points on look, there are uncertainties that lie ahead in social media. So, I know that maybe a couple of years ago it was like, oh, you got to have all your chips in social media, and this is where everybody's at, and this is the echo chamber. Well, what did we learn then, right? It started with fact checking and then changing the advertising rules. Those are still things to be aware of. We don't know the future of quote fact checkers
Yeah.
um, there. And we know that if you're,
Mostly left-wing groups, so they're part of the fact-checking operation. It's
yep,
another part of this supranational Facebook government that they kind of see themselves as bigger than the United States.
yeah, and then the changing advertising rules. Are they lifting the restrictions? Are they not? Do you have to go through an agency to do it now? There's going to be a lot of different things that are doing that, and I know.
And is the agency even going to take you? Because we do political advertising, and any given day, because we're involved in the political sphere, we could get knocked out of advertising. So for some advertising agencies, it's very likely at some point they're like, "Oh, you're political. We can't work with you," because it's too likely that they could get shut down. And if you have a significant portion of your advertising, which for everybody it's a significant portion of your advertising, you cannot uh, you can't mess with your ability to make money. So you're not going to do something that endangers that. So
Exactly.
that's not going to. That's There's a lot of people who won't do your advertising for you.
Yeah. And so just be mindful of that when you're out there, that we talked about those external things that you can't control at the beginning. Just want to tie that in a bow right here at the end and say,
Yeah.
look, those are things that are going to exist. So, but you can control what you can control, which is, are you responding with a quick temper?
Hmm.
Are you responding uh, in the way that you really want to be enshrined for time?
Hmm.
Um, so be mindful of that, and then just the great ways to be. But you do want to be interesting, because
Hmm.
and get attention, because that's what actually makes this matter. And
Hmm.
be engaging and be connected with people, and that is a great way for you to really utilize this platform of social media in a way that's actually going to be beneficial to you.
Yeah, but all under the question of what's the purpose.
Yep.
So none of that. It doesn't matter if you're interesting. It doesn't matter if you're being careful. If you're spending any time on it whatsoever, you have to be answering the question of what's the purpose of this for me as a political leader right now. And is what I'm assuming it is that actually what's happening?
No.
So am I really changing the conversation in the country based off of my tweet? In the comments, when somebody says something nasty and I respond to it, is that actually moving the conversation forward? In many cases, it's not. So you're not going to mess with that. So really look at this. You want to be careful with your time. That's the main thing. That's the thing you can't get back. So you want to be careful with your time. You don't want to be so significant about it, so afraid of it that it keeps you from speaking up. That's something you don't want to do. But you do want to be careful that you don't blow yourself up with it. And you really want to be intentional. These are great tools as far as the ability to target Facebook in particular. We have the ability to reach out, to hunt where the ducks are, to be able to connect with people who are of like mind and who are in common cause with us. We have the ability to connect with them and bring them into our actual community, to actually bring them together by texting me at 202-918-3345 or going to politicaltradesecrets.com. Those are the sorts of things that you need to be doing, is bringing people into your fold so that they can be a part of your movement for whatever it is that you say is important, and use these as tools. I look at it as like you want to go out there and strip as much value from it as possible for your purpose and what you're out to do. And that's how we view it. That's why we're engaged on Facebook. We're engaged in these places that we watch what they do. What they did yesterday was just morally wrong, to strip somebody and to continue stripping somebody of their ability to free thought and free speech, especially a former president of the United States. This is morally wrong.
Yeah.
and yet we're going to strip as much value from these bastards as possible while we can until they throw all of us out. Okay, we're going to just keep stripping as much value from it as much as we can, and that's what I recommend that people should do, and highly recommend that they do get as much value out of them as possible. And if they shut you down, oh well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if you want to work with people who can get value out of really every situation and really set it up, it's us at Olson Strategies. So reach out to us at Olson Strategies, OLSON strategies.com. You can email me, Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com, or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com. Look, we are committed to having, if you're thinking about running for office, we'd love to have a conversation with you about that. If you're ready to go, we'd love to also have a conversation with you about how we can best work with you. Really utilize all of your strengths, and really look at the landscape to create a winning campaign for you, and really make the difference for your community, your state, the country, and even the world. And so that is what's possible by working with us at Olson Strategies.
Awesome. And we can't wait to talk to you, and can't wait to making a difference for you and what you see is possible, making your vision reality. And we've had lots of really great reviews. I know you had a couple of conversations with people earlier this week who really appreciated the conversation. And they're really thinking about whether that makes sense to run and how to make their vision a reality in the world. So thank you for that. And again, I want to remind people of Grassfire. If you're looking to petition, to canvas, to get live calls done, it's the best choice out there, best quality at the best price. Petitioning, it is really the only organization I know in the country. This is why we work with Grassfire as campaign managers and as general consultants. Being able to find somebody you could trust to do petitioning is very hard. Half the time you wonder if this person is about to go into prison or they just got out of prison, and you're hiring them to take your petition out to real people, and you're not so comfortable with that. So go to grassfire.us, sign up for a consultation as soon as possible to talk to them about that. And then 10centtexting.com for one-to-one political texting. Absolute best choice you can do to make sure your message gets right to the people. And of course, go to politicaltradesecrets.com, sign up to be a Political Trade Secrets insider, join us in our community, be a part of the movement to reignite American patriotism, and just get that we're here wherever you're at, and we love meeting you here. But at some point, Facebook may not exist anymore.
Yeah.
Or who knows? Maybe Parler doesn't exist tomorrow. Oh, wait, that's already happened before. So you just never know what could happen. Maybe we're meeting on MySpace. I don't even think we've ever tried to post on MySpace, but I'm not even sure if it still exists. But that could happen. You never know. So join us at politicaltradesecrets.com. Sign up to be a Political Trade Secrets insider. And then, of course, every day after the show, if you'd like to get any of the resources, text us at 202-918-3345. Sean, any last thoughts you'd like to share with people about social media, about political leadership, and really about what we're seeing in the country this week?
Yeah, well, I'm actually going to just take a moment of personal privilege. Today is National Nurses Day, so we want to thank all the nurses who are out there keeping us healthy. We really appreciate that. And today is also National Day of Prayer, so I was honored to represent our Elks Lodge at our community prayer breakfast this morning. So
Cool.
Really appreciate that. Encourage everyone to take a moment when you get a chance today. Pray for our leaders. Pray for the folks that are leading you locally, at the state level, federally, and pray for wisdom. And it really makes a difference. So,
by the way, what's the lapel pin you get on today?
Oh, it's actually just the sticker just says "I prayed" from the prayer breakfast. So
awesome, that's great.
That's what.
Well, thank you for your leadership in the community and for being a part of that. We really, it's great to watch political leadership. And this is you are installed. I don't even know. Are you elected as the president of the Elks Lodge, or is it? How's that work?
It's by a junta.
Perfect. Well, you're a dictator in your own little banana republic, and that's great. So not everybody has the opportunity to do that, But the truth is, you can always be a leader for your community, and you can step up, you can show up, you can speak up, and we're here to help you unleash your political power. So join us in Political Trade Secrets as we seek to reignite American patriotism, and be with us tomorrow again as we have another great Political Trade Secrets. Thank you to everybody for being here today, and with that, see you tomorrow.
Join us next time by subscribing on iTunes and get show notes and sign up for our newsletter at politicaltradesecrets.com.